Hi, welcome back to the Quilted Gardener. Excuse me. This will be the first portion of the Quilt as you go in a row. I did this video already, but it was really long and it wouldn't upload. So I'm going to do a shorter version of it. I just uploaded the braided rug video, so that's up now for you to see. So for Quilt as you go in a row, what you do is you create your blocks and you sew the first row together just like you would do on a regular quilt. You know, you make rows. So you're going to take that row and you're going to sandwich it with your batting and your backing. Batting doesn't have to be a huge amount larger than your block. Your backing needs to be on your ends about 2 inches extra on each end, and then your top and bottom you want to leave at least 3 inches through here, because this is what you're going to use to attach your rows with. So you just go row after row, or block after block. This is a king size one, so it's quite long. And then you are going to either stitch in the ditch, free motion if that's what you do, use decorative stitches, use curvy stitches. It's stitching that you want, and how much that you want. Of course, the more that you put in, the more crinkly it's going to be, the more texture there's going to be. My very first ever Quilt as you go, I meant to get that out, and I think it's upstairs. I did heavy quilting on it. I did it on my brother, which was way smaller than my Singer Quantum, and my my Singer Futura embroidery machine. And I stitched it heavy, and I did it block by block, and I did the sashing in between. It was one of my first quilts that I ever did, right after I had to retire. So it is now my panic quilt. What I mean by that is if I'm having a panic attack, I can just kind of run my hands over it and wrap myself up in it, and the texture is tactile enough that it just, kind of distracts me from the panic attack. So much so that I don't have to use Xanax anymore, so that's a good thing. Xanax makes me forgetful. So you're going to do each block stitched. This one I did, some decorative stitching. I did some wavy line stitching, which is probably what I'm going to do for the rest of this one because it's a lot faster. And you're going to do your whole row, however long you're making your quilt. My blocks finished are 24 by 24. So choose a backing that you like, and like I said, sandwich it like a regular quilt. I use spray basting because the pins get in the way, and you're working on a full block at one time, and this is, taking the pins out can get monotonous. But if you choose to pin, that's fine. You don't have to pin as heavily as you would for a regular quilt because you're doing rows, not an entire quilt. The reason I spray based is because I end up moving things and re-sandwiching. Like when I get to here, I don't know if you can see that real well, there's a big wrinkle. So when I get to that section, I will peel them apart and reset them. When you use spray based, you don't need a ton of it, just enough to hold your sandwich together well. I use June Taylor's from Joann's. I buy it when I have a coupon. Lasts me forever. And you are still going to be rolling it up into your throat space. So roll it up tight as you possibly can. If you have a really small dowel, roll up on that, slide your dowel out, because you are going to be manipulating it. And your other end too, fold it up, roll it up, whatever, so that you can keep it together. So once you get your whole row quilted, that's when we're going to join them. Grab a piece of fabric from over here. Probably getting photobombed by Fuzzball there. That's my basket for strip making. So let me point you down here to where we need to be. Turn the light on. I don't know if that helps any or not to illuminate. So you have this is your extra. You've squared this off. This is not stitched. This portion, what is that? About 2 inches is left unstitched for a reason. So your next set of blocks, you're gonna, pin this back, press it back, finger press it, whatever. And then you're gonna join it like you would another row on your quilt. Get this the right way. You're gonna, oops, I have that the wrong way. I confuse myself because I'm upside down. This way. Ugh. Right sides facing together, and you're gonna push all of this fabric here in your batting out of the way, and you're gonna stitch it on your machine again. 1/4 inch seam, just like you normally would, and then press this open. Bring this back out, because you're gonna have the same exact sandwich on this portion. And this stuff we're going to remove. So you have your new piece on. We're pretending here. Ta-da! It's connected. And so there'll be another sandwich under this section. So you're going to peel this back, your next row, and where your pieces of batting butt, lay them over each other. Of course, I don't have any batting up here. Figures. Let's use this. Pretend this is batting. They're going to cross over like this. And what you're going to do is make sure that the edge of your new row of batting that is over the top of your old row of batting is even with the bottom of your seam. And you're going to take your scissors and you're just going to cut it as carefully as you can along that seam. Do not cut your back, only your batting, and those will butt up. So then you're going to, spritz that a little bit here and there to keep your batting together and in place. And then you have this left over. That's, your backing. So there will be no sashing at all on the front side. None. Not even, in between these rows, nothing along, this seam. This is all put together like a regular quilt. The only place you're going to have a rolled seam is your backing. So this is out of the way. Ta-da! It's all even. There's another row attached here that you're going to be doing quilt as you go on. You're going to have already quilted this next row that's here. So you're going to do best thing to do is all of your rows, sandwich them and quilt them first. And then you're going to come back and you're going to start putting them together. And I will do a more step-by-step video on that. But this is just to give you an idea of whether or not you really want to try this. So this is out of the way. You have your two pieces together that are already quilted. Granted, this row is not quilted. There's a reason for that. Because when you connect your back to your next row, when you connect your backing pieces together, this you're going to trim, your backing you're going to trim so that you have a 1/2 inch left-ish. Because you're going to want to, of course, fold your raw edge about 1/4 inch on both pieces. And then you're going to stitch these. The two pieces are going to be stitched together. Right sides together, obviously. So this will still be open enough because it's not attached yet. So you're stitching these together so that you have, you don't want to do that, what I just did, 2, 3, 4 rolls, because you're going to feel it. So just like you're piecing a backing for a quilt, you're going to do the same thing for this. And you are going to take it and roll it together. Get this underneath here. I have it upside down again. I was the same way in my cardiology rotation for nursing. I always had my heart backwards. So that when you end up stitching this together with the 1/4 inch seam, obviously it's going to be up here. But it'll be a seam that goes all the way down. The thing is when you're stitching your backings together, it's going to stitch onto this row. So you're going to end up with a straight line of stitching through here. So as you're adding, this row is going to get stitched, quilted again. But it'll be a straight line to go through, so you can roll your quilt up this way so that it's going through your machine like this. So you're going to need, a table to help with the drag. But it will go through, believe it or not. It'll take some finagling, a little bit of sweat, probably some tears. Hopefully you don't have to rip anything out. So you're going to just stitch this, quilt this, however you did your other, however you want it. But you're going to make sure to go stitch over that straight line so it blends in. It makes it, what's my word, less noticeable when you stitch back over the straight line you put in. Your other option is to use monofilament when you put your backing together. And like I said, I'm going to do a more detailed video when we start to add the next row on. I do not have my next row ready for that video. And this one still has to be stitched, but I have an emergency quilt that has to be quilted. I have family coming in from out of state that I need to get a quilt done for one of my aunts. So it might be 10 days before I get this next section of this video, but they will be put up as episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, and I will put, in the description what it is. Because really, the only thing to teach after, this portion of doing the quilting, the sandwiching and all that stuff is the connection. And then you're good to go, because you're going to do that on each section until you get your quilt completed. Turn my light back off because it's a little blinding. And so, those are really the steps. You're not going to use any kind of sashing on this. Excuse me. Because you're doing that rolled seam, and then you're leaving that portion at the bottom open so that you can connect just like you would a regular quilt. So then it's quilted through front and back. I've seen one video where they quilted just the batting and the top, and then they put the back on, and then they did tack stitches through it, but you had no texture, no quilting on the back of your quilt. It was all on the front. It looked a little weird to me. I will also do a video for those of you who want to know how to do the typical quilt as you go with the sashing. I have an easier way to do that than some of these other really evolved videos. Like I said, this video was originally almost an hour. That was just way too much. It bored the crap out of me too. You don't need to see me sew. You don't need to see me iron. You don't need to see me spray starch or spray based, anything like that. If you have questions about it, leave it down in the comments. I do read the comments. I do answer back to them. Otherwise, you can email me also. I will put that in the description below the video. Trying to think if there's anything else that we need to know right here in the beginning. It truly is an easier way to quilt on your home sewing machine without having to send it out to the long armor. Not that long armor businesses are bad, but it can get expensive. And this way, when you're done with the quilt, all you've got left to do is square it and bind it. In which this quilt, I will be using that binding tool I bought. As a matter of fact, let me grab that and I'll show you what it looks like. This puppy is big. This is the cheap version. This was $9, came from China, took 6 weeks to get here. And it does not fit this machine because this machine does not have the 2 holes that are required for it, that the screws go in here. It actually goes on my PQ 1500 because my 4411 does not have the holes for this either. So if you purchase one of these, make sure your machine has 2 screw holes in your plate for the screws to go here, the adjustment screws right there. I tried it out. It does have, measurements on here to tell you, about where you're at. This will go from 5/8 up to 2 inches. That's the width of the fabric that's going through the folder piece. Let's see here. I know I got some skinny pieces down here. I saw them earlier. You just take your material, and of course that's too wide. Dang it. Well, not like I don't have a gazillion tons of this. That didn't work. Oh my god, that didn't work either. That's too funny. Maybe it's not wanting me to show you how it works. Or the fabric got mad because I said what I said. And I found cutting this point helps. So you stick it through this slot here until you see the edge of it. Take something that has a point on it. And it helps it feed it through. There's a slot right here. And it comes out the other end. Just keep pushing it so that it goes through your folders, which are on the end. You can just pull it out and put it back in manually so that it comes out like it's supposed to. So when it goes through here, it folds both sides, and then when it comes out, see how it's folded? Your quilt actually fits right there. So as you're stitching, back here is folding the bias tape over, just like you would if you stitch one side on, turned it, and put the other side on. You just have to stitch slower with it so you keep up with it. And then it has the little guides here that you run this through, like that. And it keeps this fabric straight. So For those of you who are asking about that, I will do a video on this when I get to that point. Like I said, I paid like $9 for mine. It came from China. The one that is sold by Janome, that's anywhere from $200 to $285. It's made out of steel. Truthfully, it did not fit my Janome. This one did not, so I don't know if the other one would, because I had a Janome HD 1000 that I gave to my aunt. So, but like I said, when I get to that point, I will do a detailed video on that. So the next video for Quilt As You Go will probably be about a week and a half away, because I have family coming in. Like I said, they'll be here Friday. They go home on Monday. And I have a couple other things going on in between there. I need to get a quilt done as well. So, and then I'm doing a video on the braided basket tonight as well. So this one, first part will go up here in a few minutes. And like I said, any questions, leave them down in the comment section, and I will answer you back. So remember, like, subscribe, hit the bell, because then you know that I put a new video up. And definitely appreciate the subscribers that I have so far. I'm in a little competition. I want to hit 10,000 in like a record time, kind of like we did with QPI. So pass it on. Until next time, create well. Have a good one.